Iran knocked on the gates of hell by seizing a ship near Fujairah and pushing the vessel toward Iranian waters. On the morning of May 14, 2026, in the heart of the Strait of Hormuz crisis. The most serious information came from the UKMTO, the British agency that monitors maritime security. Unauthorized individuals boarded a ship anchored about 38 nautical miles off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. And the vessel began sailing toward territory controlled by Tehran. The Iranian regime moved from making threats to a real test of strength. When a ship is seized in this region, the crew becomes a bargaining chip. Global trade feels the impact, and Washington needs to decide whether to just monitor the crisis or impose a heavy cost on them. So far, there is no official confirmation of deaths, injuries, or exchange of gunfire inside the vessel. There is also no public confirmation of the exact number of crew members on board, but that's exactly where the risk lies. As Iran drags the ship closer to its waters, each person inside the vessel can be used as a political shield. I'll tell you all about it in a moment, but now you'll want to be subscribed to the channel to stay well informed and real-time information with the best journalistic quality you've ever seen. Milson Alv is a benchmark for credibility. The Financial Times identified the vessel as Rui Chuan, flying the flag of Honduras, and reported that it operated as a kind of floating arsenal. What makes the episode even more delicate is that Tehran may try to turn the capture into military propaganda. What was happening was a routine transit during the crisis, with ships stopped, held, or monitored. Because of the dispute between Iran, the United States, and Gulf allies, it was in this environment that armed men took control of the vessel. The way the action was carried out follows the pattern of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard: quick boarding, control of the crew, change of route, and movement to Iranian waters before an external response can act safely. Iran tries to present this kind of act as maritime inspection, but in the real world it sounds like state-sponsored kidnapping. Because a cornered regime uses a civilian ship to send a military message, the provocation isn't happening in isolation. 2 days earlier, Kuwait accused Iran of sending an armed team from the Revolutionary Guard to try to infiltrate Bubiyan Island in the northern Gulf, near Iraq and Iran itself. According to the Kuwaiti accusation, 6 members linked to the Iranian force took part in the operation. 4 were detained, 2 escaped, and 1 Kuwaiti soldier was injured. Tehran denied it and said that the men were in Kuwaiti waters due to a navigation error. But this explanation seems too weak given the current situation. First came the infiltration into Kuwait. Now a ship has been seized near the United Arab Emirates. This is a pattern of escalation, not an accident. At the same time, Iran is trying to intimidate from beneath the sea. The US press reported that Tehran announced the deployment of small submarines to the Strait of Hormuz, calling these vessels the invisible guardians of the region. But experts interviewed by Fox News pointed out the weakness of this display. These submarines have limitations in range, endurance, and firepower, and are also vulnerable to detection. Iran wants to pose as a victim while turning the sea into an arena for blackmail. The White House now faces a tough choice. If it treats the case as a minor incident, Tehran will understand that it can repeat the method. Marco Rubio had already been including China in this equation because Beijing buys Iranian energy, talks with Tehran, and also suffers when its own ships get stuck in the Gulf. The irony is striking. Iran depends on China's economic protection, but creates a maritime crisis that also disrupts Chinese trade. History helps explain why this case can't be treated as routine. In 2015, Iranian forces fired warning shots and boarded the Maersk Tigris, a Marshall Islands flagged ship, taking the vessel into Iranian waters, on the grounds of a commercial dispute. The case ended days later with the crew safe, but it made clear how Tehran uses foreign ships to create pressure and then negotiate relief. In 2019, the Revolutionary Guard seized the British tanker Stena Impero in the Strait of Hormuz, after London took part in detaining an Iranian ship in Gibraltar. The United Kingdom called the action a hostile act, and the episode became a symbol of a repeated tactic. When Iran feels cornered, it looks for a maritime target to turn weakness into a show of strength. Examples from other nations show that freedom of navigation is not a diplomatic detail, it's a red line of sovereignty. When the United Kingdom acted in Gibraltar against the Grace in 2019, it used special forces to prevent oil from reaching Syria in violation of European sanctions. When commercial ships were threatened in the Red Sea by Houthi attacks, the international response involved escorts, patrols, and military pressure to prevent militias from holding maritime routes hostage. The same reasoning applies to Hormuz now. If armed groups decide who passes, who stops, and who becomes a hostage, global trade starts to obey the will of the most aggressive. That's why the US and its allies need to treat the capture as a warning of political warfare, not just as a simple naval incident. Now, the next step depends on where that ship ends up, who's inside it, and what cost will be imposed on Tehran. If the vessel docks at an Iranian port, the crisis enters an even more dangerous phase because the crew could come under the direct control of the regime. If there is confirmation of hostages, the pressure for a response grows quickly. If Iran tries to use the ship as a bargaining chip for concessions, Trump will be facing the kind of crisis that separates rhetoric from real power. The Iranian regime bet that it could take things one step further without paying the price. But by targeting a vessel, its crew, and international maritime passage all at once, Tehran put its own political neck on the line. When the terrorist regime tried to use American hostages as a tool of pressure, Trump didn't treat the case as an endless diplomatic drama. He put the threat on the table and raised the cost for the enemy. It was the same against the Islamic State, when the military pressure from the United States helped crush the caliphate that kidnapped, tortured, and executed foreigners to intimidate the West. It was the same when Trump ordered the elimination of Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian commander accused by Washington of organizing attacks against Americans and of supporting militias that acted as the terrorist arm of the regime. The logic is the same now. If Iran thinks it can seize ships, detain crews, and turn possible hostages into political shields, it is repeating the mistake of regimes that confused negotiation with weakness. Trump usually responds exactly where these regimes fear most: their money, the bases, the commanders, the ports, the routes, and the machinery that sustains the blackmail. I'm Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Like this video, subscribe, and check the comments at the end to stay engaged with the Milson Alves community.